Here we have a 2024 Triumph Speed Twin 1200 model. It's a couple days old. I just got it on Monday. It's Wednesday, and well, just got myself up to the 1,003 kilometer mark. So it's time for the first oil change. We do all of our basic checks when we do the first service. So we are looking basically for leaks, for odd marks on brake rotors, and anything that might suggest something's out of alignment. I've gone through the bike, checked all of the bolts, basically had a good look, make sure there's nothing that's loose. Everything passes so far. Bike's been an absolute rock star for the first 1,000 kilometers. Had a lot of fun on it. Can't wait to be able to open it up a little bit there as the mileage gets up there. So lots of bugs on it so far. Gotta love that. Anyway, we're going to start with the oil change. As recommended in the Triumph manual, I got the Castrol Power 1 full synthetic 4T. Meets all of the regular specs there for Triumph. I got a Triumph branded oil filter. Got that at the dealer with a crush washer. Taking off the sump with a T50. And we'll just be draining the oil. So as we get underneath here and have a look, that's our sump bolt right there. So once we get that in, flip that over to take that out of there. As you can tell, I already loosened it a little bit there. And bike is up to operating temperature, so a little leery of how much heat I'm going to end up putting into my glove. As you can see, the sump bolt has now been removed, and we are letting the oil drain into the pan. We'll take off the oil filter, very shortly. Wrench for the oil filter is a 65 mil, just a standard cap wrench. Bought it at Canadian Tire for about 10 bucks. So I had a little inspection of the oil filter, just using a magnet. Put a magnet down in there, strong rare earth magnet they call it, just to see if I could pick up any metal shavings, and really didn't find much at all, to be honest with you. It was very, very regular. I mean, this hasn't been cleaned at all, and everything looks pretty good. So looks like our engine is bedding in well. Likely not going to cause me a lot of issues in the future. So most of the oil's out of there. We're going to get that new oil filter back in. I'll put a little bit of fresh oil in the new oil filter, and with the oil filter oil change, Triumph says 3.4 liters. So we'll use we have 946 milliliter bottles. We'll have to do a little bit of math on that. For the new crush washer, we're going to put that sump bolt back up. Put a little bit of grease on the outside of the gasket, just where it mates with the engine, and we'll wire that back up there. I'll put a little bit of oil in it just to get her started. All right, with these back on there, we got our oil filter back on and our sump. 10 Newton meters. It's a little bit more than hand tight, and 25 Newton meters. So grab your torque wrench. All right, so time to fill up the engine oil. We've got our oil cap off there. As I said before, these are 946 milliliters. So all four of those jugs is going to be about 3784 milliliters, and we need 3400 milliliters. So once we dump all of these into the engine, with the exception of the last one, we'll need about 60% of that last bottle to get it up to that 3.4 liters. So I'm going to put about half of it in, start it up, get it going, and then we'll have a look at the sight glass, and we'll start to fill up from there. All right, here we go with a little bit more oil here. I'll put about half of this jug in. I've already got 3 of them in. Once we get down to about the halfway mark, start it up. Looking good. We'll start it up and we'll measure from there. So those 4 bottles of 946, that's where the oil level is in that last bottle. So took a little bit more than I thought it would. However, once we get over to the bike here, we can see that the oil level is correct. That's nice and warmed up and ready to go. in between the two notches as Triumph has asked for, so we're good to go on the oil. Next up, we'll check the radiator fluid. Alright, so zooming out from the outside of your bike, you'll want to look basically down into this little slot right here. I got the light shining on it, and as you can see, there's two notches there. You'll need to shine a light on the top of it because the light disperses in a weird way when you look at it. But as you can see, the top portion of that is white and the bottom portion is pink. That's where the level is sitting, at that top notch. That's where it should be. If you shine from the bottom, however, it looks like the whole thing's pink, right? So you can see how that'll play a trick on you. But if you shine it from the top, there you go. Perfect level. Alright, so next up we'll check the rear brake fluid. So in behind this panel here on the side of the bike, it literally just pulls off. Held in with some rubber grommets. Not a big deal. We look at that brake fluid. So as you can see, it's between the upper and lower marks. That's all you need. If you needed to adjust it, those two screws at the top, you take those off, take off the rubber top, and add some brake fluid from an unopened container. Make sure it's sealed. Brake fluid does pick up water from the atmosphere. Don't use a used one. And we're going to have a look at all of the fittings and make sure that everything is leak proof, as it says in the Triumph guide. And we'll have a look at the other side, just at the caliper. All these fittings, no leaks. Everything looks good and as it should be. We can move up to the front brake. So now we're looking at our front brake right there. You can see that the level is at the max mark. Give that a jiggle. You can see it moving in there. It's perfect. And again, we'll have a look at all of the fittings. So this is your master cylinder. We don't see any kind of leaks coming out of any of these hoses here. We've got this little banjo bolt with a bleeder screw on the top up here. So this is a place it could leak. We're looking for any kind of signs of leakage. Follow our lines all the way down to the caliper. Again, nice and bone dry. Caliper looks like it's in good shape. Brand new brakes, so we're not too worried about that. We don't see any kind of demarcation on the brake rotor, so it looks like everything's in complete alignment. And we'll have a look at the other side as well. And again, no leaks. No marks. We're good to go. Looking at our shock absorbers, same thing. We're looking for any kind of oil that might be seeping out of there. And again, that's all nice and clean. Rear shock, same thing. We want to make sure that our springs are all properly lined up. We have minor adjustments on the rear. I haven't really played around with these. These are the same ones that came from the factory. I would love to get those fancy ones from Thruxton, but well, maybe another day. Alright, bike looks like it's in pretty damn good order. Pass the test. Next up, we're going to reset the service light. Well, something you may not have noticed, inside that cover on the other side, so this is the same side that we took with the brake fluid. That little adjustment tool, that is used to adjust your rear shocks. So you would put it in there. You'd have to take off the silencer. Unfortunately, there's not enough clearance, but you basically twist that around, and it moves to those little detents to change the spring rate, just in case you didn't know that. Alright, in order to reset the service light on this bike, you're going to need TuneECU. You're going to need to pay $25 to TuneECU for a license. You pay that every year. Depends on whether or not you want to do all of your own servicing and get all of your own engine codes. Take off the seat. And from there we grab our OBD port, which is plugged onto that little gizmo right there. So when you put it back, you just put it back on there. Make sure that it's nice and seated and that water can't get in there. There's a little bit of grease inside that, as you can see. And we'll put on our TuneECU. Alright, so for me, I'm using the V-Peak. Comes in a little box like that. I bought it for a Mini that I used to have. Once you connect it up to your phone, you pair it with your phone. You're going to put your ignition on. You're going to have this in the run position. Actually, not in the start position, but in the run position. And you're going to head over to your app, TuneECU. Click on Connect. It is connected to V-Peak. And at this point, I'm going to go into the ECU, go to Test and Adjustments, and we are going to look at Adjustments. And this is the reset service interval. So we want to do that. It's going to tell me how many kilometers do I want to set it at. Now I've done 1,000. The manual says to change your oil every 16,000 kilometers. I'm probably going to do it more often than that, but I want my reminder set so that it happens at 16,000. Yes, it's a little bit off there, but that's okay. I don't mind that. I would like to do it at 16, at 32, at those round numbers. So that's what I'm going to set it up for. So confirm. Yes. Reset service interval is completed. That's as easy as it is with this TuneECU app. It's fantastic. Go back into our ECU, we'll disconnect, and we're done. We now have a reset service interval using TuneECU. And again, 25 euros. Send that money in there. Get this thing done. It's fantastic. Worth the money. All right, we'll look at our chain measurements now. So, Triumph wants between 20 and 30 millimeters of deflection or free play. So when I put a little bit of tension on it, I can get it down to the 10 mark. And up with about the same amount of tension. Looks like we're up at about 78, 70, say 77. So 77 to 10, we're looking at about 23 millimeters of play, give or take. That is between the 20 and 30. Check that again. So we're at 10. Yep, and about, I want to say 76, 77, so it looks good. Somewhere between 23, 24, 25 millimeters of deflection. That's perfect. That's where we want it. So one more thing to note, where you measure that is roughly between the sprockets, and I find that that's really about this section of the tire right here. About halfway between the front and the rear sprockets. So once you've got that set up, just put your tape measure there, push up a little bit, push down a little bit. You'll need a rake on it. I put the bike in gear, rolled it forward so that the top of the chain was somewhat taut. Didn't put a lot of pressure on it, just enough to prevent that from sliding up and down as you're doing your measurements. And that's it for the service. So we've done an oil change, we've checked our brake fluids, we've checked our rad fluid, we've adjusted our chain. Well, we haven't adjusted the chain, we've checked the chain tension. If we needed to adjust the chain, we'd have to loosen the axle bolt here and then use these adjusters each side to slide the axle back and forth as necessary. I'll likely be doing that in another video. So overall, pretty easy service. Saved myself a little bit of money from the dealer. It's quite expensive to do this. And if you have any questions about TuneECU or any of those other things, any of the things that we've done, by all means ask in the comments. Thanks for watching.